Hello to all our followers. Today on the Cultures Podcast, we will be talking about identities. But as we said on last week's episode, we will focus on just one country to go deeper into the topic. As requested by you, this selected country will be Italy. Let's get into it.
As a startup, I want to explain the difference between types of identities. First, we have national identities. That refers to the feeling of belonging to a nation. We have regional identities, which are based on geographical areas from a nation and stereotypes like accents. Finally, ethnic identities mean belonging to an ethnic group where they share language, culture, and religion. We will mostly focus on regional and ethnic identities.
There are 10 principal regional and ethnic identities, but we will be mentioning the most significant. For starters, we have the Italian identity, based on people from Italy that share language, history, and traditions. Sardinians are people from the second largest city in the Mediterranean Sea, and they have different language named Sardinian. That is way different than Italian. Moving on, we have Lombards, people from a region in northern Italy that have a different culture that makes them different from Italians. They also have different influences on Italian fashion.
Finally, there are Romani people who are also known as gypsies and have been in Italy for a very long time. They have different cultural practices as well as another language. Now, let's talk about the perception that all these identities have. Because of its diverse cultural heritage, Italy has a ton of different identities, but we can say that the treatment each gets comes from social, political, and economic factors. In most parts of northern Italy, they are perceived as prosperous, efficient, and industrialized. On the other hand, southern Italy is seen as more rural, welcoming, and self-lifestyle people. However, Italians are known for having great identity unification.
Taking into account that people tend to perceive identities in different ways, some may say that some identities are better than others. Thinking from the Italian point of view, they judge identities in some way based on the person's physical appearance and what they project. Nevertheless, they understand that each identity has their own history, traditions, and values that makes them unique, and that is why they respect and recognize diversity instead of focusing on judging others by who they show to be.
Following up, it's important to remember that people with different identities also interact. Most of the time, people interconnect when they have things in common and they establish a common objective, and with other people's perspective, they build a constructive encounters. However, the interaction can go wrong if there's oppression and discrimination causing damage and the creation of stereotypes and encounter bias. Now that we know this, it is important to always approach people from different identities with empathy and respect to understand their points of view.
As our last topic, we got asked if Italian identities mix at some point or if they are separated. We can say that Italians have a shared national identity, but they also identify with their own regional and ethnic identities, which for them have the same importance. Some examples are Italians that identify more with being Catholic or Sicilian. It is important to remember that their sense of national identity is constantly being developed by society and the government by promoting different aspects that characterize them, such as food, language, and national pride.
And that is all for today. Thank you for listening. We hope that you understood about Italian identities. Let us know what other topic you would like us to discuss. All of the information comes from trustworthy sources of information.